Hello, Kim. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. And how are you doing today?
I am doing fine. How's our boy?
He's good. He's coming through a little different lately. Um, Previously he would kind of prepare me for what we were going to talk about in our next talk, and this time he was kind of quiet about it. I was kind of wondering. Well, this morning he started coming through, and so what he's telling me is he wants to talk about Christ consciousness today and how important it is to stay in the present moment. And he says that's part of what he wants to really bring through in this next year, just being present in each moment and connecting with them in each moment rather than, because he's telling me what I would do before, and he's saying to talk about this too, because you're connecting with them also. But there'll be times where the connection feels real strong, and he's there and you're hearing him, and then other times it seems like he's not so close, like he's far away. And he's saying that he's only a thought away, and that it's only our imaginations and that our distractions and stuff that pull us away from our awareness with them. So he says, like, say for instance, if you're thinking about paying your bills or what you're going to do tomorrow or next week or something that happened 2 weeks ago that wasn't sitting well with you, you pull yourself out of the present moment, and the present moment is where you create, and the present moment is where you feel his energy.
Interesting.
So that's
Well, okay, so I've always wondered what Christ consciousness is, but even more importantly, what is this? My forehead looks like a freaking butt. That's my vein. I don't know why it pops out so much. Ugh. Anyway, there we go. All gone. I'll give myself a little eyebrow lift too. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Third eye.
Oh, really?
Is getting more activated.
Oh, well, why does my third eye have to make my forehead look like a butt? Seriously? God. Anyway, I don't really care.
Well,
I'm old. I got to deal with it.
I'll tell you how to do something later. There's something on the internet you can follow. It's a lymphatic massage you do on your face.
Oh, I'm just kidding. I don't care. I just like, whoa, what the hell is that? I noticed it on another video too.
He's talking about your third eye function, and there's movement.
I don't think I have a third eye. I think I have a third butt, or second butt, if you want to be technical. All right, we will start. Enough of this craziness. Eric, what the heck is Christ consciousness? I didn't want to say what the hell in the same word sentence as Christ, so I'll say what the heck.
Yeah. So the Christ consciousness, and so he's starting out by saying you could look at the Christ consciousness as almost like a collective. That the being that walked the planet as Jesus is one of the beings you can pull out of that Christ consciousness. You can make connection with that energy and communicate with that energy. And he said, but it's also a collective. It's that place of knowing where you know that you're always connected with source. And because what he's saying is when Jesus walked the planet, he knew that he was always connected to source, and that he had quite a bit of education, and his parents were educated even before he was born, that he was going to come through and things would be different with the child. So he was raised differently. So he knew how to work with the natural laws of nature and that. And Eric's talking about it's all perception. And so when you start your connection with that you make with the Christ consciousness is at the top of your head through your crown chakra, which, as we learned in previous channelings, has to do with your relationship to authority figures.
Oh,
and so
yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
So he's saying what Christ consciousness really is when you can give up that illusion of separation and realize that you are always connected and always in contact with source.
But of course, the illusion of separation is important in some ways. Is we have to feel separate so we can have polar contrasting relationships with each other. Like this person has to betray that person. That person learns about, forgiveness and things like that. So that's why the illusion of separation is so important for the human experience. So we can experience contrast, right?
Right. And we had to, Eric's saying, and Jay's coming through with this too, we've had to downstep our vibration in order to have an experience in the physical realm. Because what they're telling me is our physical bodies are more or less what they're saying, molded to our soul, that it's physical matter attaches to the energy of our soul is more how it is. We think it's the other way, that we're a body that brings a soul in, when it's actually that it's our soul that creates our experience to the degree of the physical body. And to do that, we had to downstep our vibration and come into duality and have the illusion of separation. Because what they're saying is, without the illusion of separation, we couldn't have even lowered our vibration enough to hold form in the physical world.
Interesting. And I guess the other illusion, the illusion of scarcity, is also kind of important for the human experience. But we can talk about that some other time. So many topics, so little time.
And yeah, and Eric's just saying, that one is actually based in the second chakra and your perceptions. So that could be a whole nother class. How you perceive your reality is what you attract to you.
Right. Right.
And so if you perceive it, and he's just touching on this briefly, if you had an upbringing where there was a lot of lack and limitation, that would be your perception of how the world works. So that, remembering your chakras work together to the number 8, that's what you attract to yourself through your sacral chakra, which is your magnetic body.
Okay, interesting.
Your emotional body, yeah. So that's what Christ consciousness is. And when you meditate,
Bella, be quiet. I'm gonna headbutt you with my butt forehead. Okay, be quiet. Sorry, go ahead.
So he's saying, when people meditate and they start to see the color purple, they're making that connection with the Christ consciousness. Oh. And he's saying, like, for instance, when we've done our things where and he does want you to come over and see him today. He's got something else special in mind. When you've been in the garden and experiencing the purple flowers and seeing the purple color, that is Christ consciousness. So what you've done is you've raised your awareness, from the physical level to the emotional level, then the mental level, then the heart, the throat, the third eye, into the crown, and you've connected with your Christ consciousness. And so from that place, you're able to hold others in compassion and not hold others in judgment. And when you look at the perspective from the present moment, you start each day and each moment new. So say someone who maybe had a troubling relationship in the past. If you're living in the past and you interact with them, you run into them on the street, and you're projecting that negative past at them, you're never going to feel how they may be. It's staying in the present moment. And he's saying forgiveness is especially important to stay in Christ consciousness, forgiving those past wounds or whatever, so that you greet each day, each person, each moment from a new perspective.
I mean, that's a much better way to live life, and living it in love instead of negativity and judgment. It's like, some people tell me, especially my family members, tell me that I trust people too much, right? It's like I share everything with them. And I'd rather believe the best in people and be disappointed every once in a while than believe the worst and be miserable all the time. So,
and he says that's a good way to look at it, Mom. He says, because you're not setting yourself up for, he said, to see the worst in people, you're setting yourself up for a negative experience.
Yes.
The best in people, you're setting yourself up for a positive experience. So he says that is exactly the way to go about it. And, you know, as he always says, forgiveness is the key. Just keep the energy open by being forgiveness, letting go of judgment, releasing all those things, and you will have clarity and you will have compassion. That doesn't mean if somebody did some awful deed that you think it's okay, but you forgive the individual maybe, but not the deed. You still have the clarity and discernment to know that that was not okay, and
Right.
that's not where you want to be.
Yeah. That makes
So,
sense.
yeah, and so it's just a way of being and a way of seeing things and a way of perceiving things. And so he's saying this is really seventh dimensional reality when you're in connected with Christ consciousness.
Seventh dimension.
Seventh
I didn't
dimension.
know that.
And as he told you the last time with the two of you being connected at the hearts being twin flames, because your energies work together to the number 8. So that when the two of you are connected and making that connection, you are exhibiting or you are experiencing 8th dimensional reality, which is creation and motion.
Oh,
so when
wow.
you are connected with Erik and in the moment, you are absolutely in Christ consciousness and you can create from that moment.
Oh gosh, this is like law of attraction kind of creation. You can manifest anything you want.
It is, and it's even stronger because a lot of the law of attraction is working with the second chakra and the perception, where this is working really with your connection with source.
So how can one jump right into the 8th dimension and say, okay, I want to create an online spiritual school for children. Let's let it happen.
Well, the way to create your reality is to there's several ways. Erik's saying,
give me the easy way, the one that's dumb it down. The 8th dimension for dummies.
Okay, so say that's your joy and your passion. He said what you would start doing is feeling that and imagining that potential and putting a lot of love into it, putting emotion into it, imagining the possibilities. But he said what you want to avoid is getting caught up on details and having it work out exactly as you think it should, because often spirit will bring you something better than you even know.
Get away from the expectations completely.
He says you just set the intention. Another thing I'm often reminded to do with clients is there's this little tiny book I bought years ago. It's called Hiring the Heavens. You can hire a spirit committee, your guides and your angels. Erik would be on your spirit committee, obviously. And you say, okay, I want to start a spiritually oriented school. Show me the next step.
And do they take American Express? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. And then just release all expectations. And then you got to follow the synchronicities and the divine timing. He says it's important to stay in the now moment. You create from the now moment. And to connect with the 8th dimension is really about being heart-centered and feeling that other part of your heart, that either you're making that connection to your vertical pillar of light so you're connected to source, or the way you do it and I do it, we do it through our twins. We are a constant state. You are constantly in 8th dimensional reality when you're connected to Erik. You're connecting the heavens and the earth. Because Erik has access to the upper dimensions, which you do as well. You can raise your frequency up to that diamond level. And when you two connect at the heart, he brings in the heavens and you bring in the grounding energies and you're connected at the heart. That's an 8th dimensional reality.
Wow, that's amazing.
Well, he's saying regardless of if they know who their twin flame is, they just need to make that connection to that vertical pillar of light. Because once you do that and you start living in integrity and truth and you're always aligned with source, the natural result can be that kind of thing can come into your life. But the most important thing is making sure you're aligned and harmonized. And it's like this. It's when you're in the synchronistic flow in alignment and harmony, the things find you. He's telling me to use this as an example. Like your needs will be met before you know they're needed.
Wow.
So say for instance, like I've had a couple opportunities lately where I've got to low need for my nursing job. That just means they have extra staff and we can take off if we want to. We don't have to use our vacation time.
Good.
Every time that happens, usually within a few minutes, I have clients booking. So it's like
Wow.
I just open up the space in the universe and it's instantaneously. Now, if I thought about that and tried to make all that happen, I would block it and screw it up somehow. But when I just connect with Jay, as you will connect with Erik, it just kind of happens automatically. It's a matter of keeping your vibration at that level. He says it is that simple, Mom. It's a matter of keeping your frequency and your vibration high, which is
Yeah.
are the things we've been
Yeah.
talking about.
Now, let me ask you a real quick question. We discussed it before, but just for everybody out there, does everyone have a twin flame?
He said, yeah, let's cover that again quick in case anybody's missed the last one. When in the beginning, Source wanted to experience itself, and it broke off into many, many different fractals, individual expressions of self. From that initial breaking apart from Source, there were two primal forces within Source energy, the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Those two primal forces then separated, and so each individual has a divine masculine aspect and a divine feminine aspect to them. Historically, it's been that that one had stayed on the other side and acted as a guide for the one that incarnated. Recently, though, as the energies have elevated on the planet, more and more twin flames are coming together. If your twin flame is deceased and on the other side or not incarnated, your connection and relationship with that twin flame can actually be a much easier relationship, a much clearer communication, even than with they're alive, because all of the barriers and the human expectations are gone. And so what we found out a couple of weeks ago, Erik let Elisa know that he and her were twin flames, and the reason they chose not to come together as a couple in this lifetime, and this was the way they designed it from the beginning. For one thing, it wouldn't have worked because Elisa chose to come in and experience some parental figures that gave her a really skewed picture of masculine reality. So I would have, saying is I would have had to play that out for her because a twin is a mirror. So we would not have had a good relationship. So we came through as mother and son in this relationship. And he is telling me that's somewhat unusual to have a parent and a child. And so, yeah. And he says, and he's going back to this a little more. He said, Mom, did you ever notice maybe with more than the other kids, we would kind of push each other's buttons?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was always worried about him,
Yeah. Yeah. And he says that's part of the reasons we were a mirror for each other.
Ah.
And so we would push others' buttons. So yeah, that's what a twin flame is. And so everybody can connect with that twin flame energy. It's the other part of your heart. And say your twin is in some other part of the world, alive on the planet, and is going through a really hard time or something. By your connecting and sending love to that other part of your heart, you can really help them to heal and to grow.
Okay.
Because what's Erik's saying is typically what's happened is once a person has raised their understanding and vibration enough, they can draw that twin flame into their life. Like he's saying, for me, 10 years ago, I would not have been able to draw Jay into my life.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Because I didn't have the understandings and the clarity.
Yeah.
5 years ago, you would have had he's saying 5 years ago, 3 years ago, this concept for you would have been very difficult.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, but what does that mean?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Divine timing, like you said.
And he's saying it's perfect. Because this is a year where people are really going to be coming into their sovereignties, kind of going off a little bit. And he says, so it's perfect. He says that this is all happening and so many people are witnessing that you've raised your frequency to this level, and you're going to help so many other people to raise their frequency as well as they watch these videos.
Well, yeah, if you look at the very beginning of the vlog, well, the blog, you know, it wasn't YouTube right away. Oh gosh, that was a mess. And then even the very first YouTubes, it's like I compare and contrast to right now.
Yeah.
Whole different thing.
Eric's been talking about that too. He says he can really see. He says she's just sparkling.
Oh,
doing so much better. You're really sparkling. And
I think it's because the sunlight reflects on this little vein right here. Just bling. I'm kidding. Enough with the vein. Okay. It's
and yeah.
So you said being in the now. That is not easy. But I think all it takes is practice, right?
Practice. And he's saying, remind yourself. He says, take a week or two and do this every day and remind yourself that 4 or 5 times a day that nothing really matters but the present moment. If something comes up that's stressful, you just kind of check in and go, okay, I'm safe, I'm warm, I'm comfortable, my needs are being met. I'm going to breathe into this. We'll get through it. Nothing matters but the present moment. I don't need to worry about what's happening tomorrow and what's happened yesterday. When I breathe, I'm in the present moment. I'm inspired. That's what he's saying. Breathe.
Yeah, breathing will put you in the now. I remember when my mother was dying, we had her at home in sort of a hospice situation. I would always whisper to her, safe and secure, safe and secure. And that's kind of a cool mantra that I guess you could use as you breathe.
Mm-hmm.
Safe and secure. That'll put you in the now.
Yep. There's another one where he's telling me you breathe in, maybe pick a number, maybe 6 or 8. And so you breathe into breathe in for 6 seconds, and then you might hold for 3 or so. And then when you breathe out, you double it. So I breathed in for 6. So then when I breathe out, I'm going to go slow and breathe out for 12. And when you do that, you can almost just feel your nervous system calm down.
Yes.
And you're just present in the present moment. Because he says that is where you create from. You create the present moment.
From the now. That's why it's one of the reasons it's so important. Plus, that's probably the space you have to be in to feel connected to and live as if you are part of the collective, part of the one.
That is, exactly. In the now, in the present moment. So Erik is saying, so if you want more clarity on this, we can touch on that. But what he's suggesting is, let's do a session. Of course, we'll cut that part of the session out, and at the end, but we're going to have you visit him again, and we would like to invite Christ to visit you as well today.
Oh, I love him. All right, I'm going to make a note to remember to cut the proprietary.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what number. I'll listen to it. And so when you experience Christ, let me just tell you, it can be very intense. Tears may flow, but they wouldn't be tears of sorrow. It's tears of joy. Some will hear his voice. Some will just see the color purple. I don't know. Erik, we'll see how you experience once we get you over there and we ask him to step forward. We're going to have you do this Christ-like meditation, and Erik's going to step forward. But the thing is, when I see Christ, it seems like everybody I've talked to who has seen him sees him different. He looks exactly like the image of the pictures I see of him, but when I see him, it's when I'm meditating, he emerges from this purple color, and he is purple himself. but he looks just like he does, but he's purple. I'm shown his heart, which is gold and glowing and sparkling. And it looks like all of the veins, his circulatory system is golden liquid, like spark,
Wow.
looks like arcs of electricity coming from his heart. It's very cool and it's very intense. So we'll get over there, and if you're just awestruck, you might not even be able to talk. But if you're not, we'll have a conversation. But Eric's gonna show up, and we'll have some questions for him.
All
See
right,
what's
let's do it.
going on. Okay, so let's get started. And all right, yeah, ready? Okay, comfortable.
Wait, let me ask you one thing. I could pause the recording and then restart it. Will that
Would that make it easier for you?
either that or maybe will it wake me up too much if I just?
Oh, maybe. It's probably easier just to cut it out.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll do that.
Yeah. All right. So this will be a little bit different, but we're going to get to there. Erik says it up a little bit. So and you notice the clearing with the marble bench and walk towards it and take a seat. And let me know when you have the image. Shake it. Now ask Erik to come forward and let me know when he's there with you. Would you like to spend a few moments communicating with Erik? And then just shake your head and let me know when you're ready for us to move on, and we'll call Christ forward. Okay. So now let's ask Erik to bring through Christ. Let me know when you have that image, feeling or knowing. I would like you to spend some time communicating with Christ and Erik, and just allowing your energy to merge with Erik and feeling the Christ presence. Likely holds that you make that strong connection in the questions and attention returns to the sound of my voice. And so let's ask Erik to speak to start with. Ask if he can add any insight to what we've already covered on Christ consciousness and the Christ light.
He said with Ascension, it's getting easier for Christ consciousness to be in this dimension. And you don't have to be Christian.
No, that's true. Is there anything specifically that people can do to make that connection easier?
Don't take themselves and life so seriously. That's one thing. Let's see. We go through it.
And the being Christ himself, what does he have to say about his energy and his presence on the planet at this time?
Well, I know Erik says that you just have to be love, because that's what you are. Just like Christ.
Be love. Love yourself above all others, and it'll all be added on to you, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, he shakes his head, yeah. And Christ is part of helping to raise people's vibrations toward that level. Some are going faster than others, and that's okay. No right or wrong. What else?
Is everybody ascending? Or some choosing not to?
Well, Erik shakes his head no. And Christ says they will. They will learn from others who are ascending.
And I'm hearing that as more and more light and more people wake up and more light is shed on this planet, that those who are existing in shadow and living in darkness and not understanding, it will feel so uncomfortable for them that they'll really almost have no choice but to shift, because they too will be in an energy of creating their reality, and if they continue what they're doing with their thoughts and their deeds, they'll create a lot of trauma for themselves.
Yeah, Christ shakes his head yes.
And then we'd ask Christ too, is there anything specific for Erik and Elisa that you'd like them to know? What is their next? What do you see as their next step, Jesus?
Broadcast to a larger audience to help raise the vibration of more people. And he also said that as we ascend, there will be less plaguing the human body, because it won't be able to hold on to negative energy like disease and mental illness. But as we ascend, at first the body will rebel and have symptoms like stomach issues, anxiety because that's a higher vibration that we're not used to.
And I'm also hearing to bring the message forward through Christ, and it was something that was that is, he said, it's one of the things in the Bible that many people do interpret correctly, because much of it was misinterpreted. But he talks about the Christness. And so what he's saying is that when two are in agreement, I am in the midst of you. So, for instance, talking and being in agreement about broadcasting to a wider media with people who are supportive, that Christ consciousness energy is there, amplifying, purifying, and speeding up the process.
Yeah, he says that's because when you're in agreement, you're living more in the one as part of the collective.
As the collective. And is there anything that you can think of, Elisa, that you would like to ask Christ or Erik specifically?
Okay. I asked him how this broadcast is going to be made possible. And he shows me along with Jesus' huge team on the other side helping.
Oh, yeah. That's your spirit committee. Ask them for guidance each morning.
Yeah.
Ask them to reveal your next step, and all will be made clear. And they're telling me to tell you to follow the synchronicities.
Yeah.
And make your connection with Erik every day. Make a conscious connection. That will help.
I will. He's rolling his eyes at me.
He's what?
He's rolling his eyes at me like, sure, Mom. I forget.
Well, we'll get you so that this is just second nature.
Yeah.
As Erik first told me when he first approached me, he told me I would be speaking Erik as a second language, and he says you will be speaking Erik as a second language as well.
ESL.
Yeah.
JSL too.
ASL. What's that?
Erik as a second language instead of English as a second language.
Oh, okay. I thought you said ASL.
No, then I said J. Jesus.
Oh, J. Jesus is a second language, yes.
Yeah. He's laughing.
Okay. Well, why don't you go ahead and spend some time with Erik and with Jesus, and when you're ready to come back onto this side of the dimension, this side of awareness, shake your head and let me know, and we'll get you crossed back over and talk about this some. presence you can bring back with. You go ahead and rise from where you're standing. Walk over to the bridge, crossing back into the third dimension, bringing all of your upgrades and all of your clarity with you. And once you cross the bridge, again, drop an anchor into the ground, anchoring your new picture of reality into third dimensional reality. You are now a bridge between the third and the fifth dimension, Eric's telling me. And when you're ready, just go ahead and start bringing your awareness back into your physical body. Feeling your arms and your legs, your hands and your feet. You can go ahead and open your eyes when you're ready. Well, I bet you didn't know you're going to meet Jesus when you're
Oh, God, no. Wow.
Eric's full of surprises. You know, I lost track of something earlier. I wanted to tell you, he is stronger. I can feel him around more strongly now, and it's like he's more authentic. He can really show more of his true self and his true personality. It was like now that he's been able to tell you what your actual connection is, it's made his energy feel stronger.
Oh, interesting.
Do you feel that as well?
Yeah, I do.
It was kind of like he was having to hide a little bit of himself or pretend like he was less than he was, because he said you couldn't know till the time was right. It would have blown you up. So, I mean, the energy was so intense. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's exaggerating. You wouldn't have actually blown up, but
Well, that's good.
yeah. Says, yeah, no blowing up my mama.
I'll let the calories do that for me.
Yeah. So yeah, he says, practice staying in the present moment. Tell yourself nothing else matters but this present moment. Take some breaths and connect with me. Do that 4 times a day. Just really feel my presence. He says, again, he's talking about the music. When you are hearing music, pay attention to the verses in the song.
Okay.
Remember that email I sent you?
Yeah.
I was watching Channeling Erik. You were on talking about broadcasting to a wider media.
Mm-hmm.
Erik starts playing a song in my head. I can't recall what it was right now, but it was something to do with confirming that was coming true, that was going to be reality. What was that? I have to look because I wrote it down.
Another medium said the same thing, that I need to pay attention to the signs he gives me with music.
Right.
But now Christ, to me, looked like he had a white robe, the typical, but his face was just a blue blob. I mean, purple blob with, when he opened his eyes, like gold, and everything else. His hands were purple, but they were rimmed with this sparkling gold aura. And so was his head, but at the top there was just purple. He reminded me that I am love, to remember that. And I told him he looked like a blueberry. He thought that was funny. It reminds me of Willy Wonka, that Veruca or whoever, it turned purple. And then Erik, when he gave me something, he just pulled a big indigo or purple rather, glowing ball out from his butt and gave it to me and put it on top of my head. Typical.
Okay, Erik, that's hilarious.
I thought he was going to bring something from the heart, but I guess
today it was something from the butt.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So here's what he's saying. Oh, okay. So the song he starts playing in my mind, See Her Shake on the movie screen. That was what he was playing.
Okay.
It's David Essex. What's the name of the song? Hey, Rock On. And he starts
Okay.
playing that in my mind, See Her Shake on the movie screen. And then in addition to that, I'm sitting there watching you, and he is just carrying on. He's acting really enamored with you, and he's going, "Look at how pretty she is. She's sparkling. Look at how
Oh, so sweet.
beautiful." And then he plays that song. So I knew that was confirmation from Erik that that was happening.
Yeah.
So he says, really pay attention to those things, those little verses in songs. That is me talking to you. As you start, when you start hearing them on the radio and that kind of thing, he says, pretty soon they're going to start playing in your mind.
Okay.
He said, you can even ask me to um to play that back and to show you, like, because I communicate with multiple beings, so I have to keep them arranged a little bit. Erik,
Yeah.
you're here. Jay, you're here. He said, you can ask me, okay, always come through on the right side of my body, or always come through on the left side of my body,
Yeah,
whatever.
he is
Right.
usually right, the right side.
Right. That's where I
Yeah.
hear him too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he says, really start tuning in and paying attention to that. Stay in the present moment. I love you. And I don't know what he's got in store next time, but he's kind of talking about Akashic Records. So we'll see.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Kim, and you guys check her out. Oh my gosh.
Embody.
No. Before we close,
Oh,
I will stop the recording, but I want to just tell you one thing after that. But anyway, it's embody-light.com. I will put it here. Bye,
okay.
everybody. Love you.
Bye, everybody. Have a great week.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.